This should be the new American hero, isn't he? The did I do that? Did I do that? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a pleasant Christmas. Today I want to make a video about the recent controversy surrounding Elon Musk and his comment regarding high-skilled immigration into the United States via the H-1B visa system. I'll read you an article from news.com.au, and then we can look at the tweet from Mr. Vivek Ramaswamy, where he also chimes in with his perspective on the issue, something which has also caused a lot of pushback from MAGA. So the article is called You Don't Get It. Trump fans turn on Musk as civil war erupts over skilled immigration. A MAGA civil war has erupted between Donald Trump's fans and billionaire Elon Musk, with a vicious debate taking over social media. So it's by author Frank Chung. Donald Trump was rocketed into the White House thanks in no small part to support of Elon Musk and other Silicon Valley heavyweights. But a vicious debate over skilled immigration that erupted on social media this week shows the honeymoon between MAGA and the right-wing tech bros is well and truly over. Arguably the biggest fracture to emerge in the pro-Trump coalition since the Republican stunning election over the last month came to the head over the Christmas after Elon Musk spoke up in favor of increasing the number of skilled tech workers allowed into the US. So the H-1B visa system currently has a cap of, I think, between 65,000 and 80,000 people that can come in and work each year. For those of you who are not familiar, this is a system where say like high-skilled immigration specialists in technology, for example, in medicine, can get a worker's permit to work for a company for about 3 years in the United States for them to return home. This is something that's been taken advantage of a lot by by Silicon Valley and a lot of the big tech companies, and many of them have been lobbying to increase the quota for HB1 visas, and I think that's some of the same thing that Elon Musk is asking for here. I saw some numbers suggested that he wanted to increase it to over 100,000, or maybe as far as 150,000 per year. So, continuing the article, that sparked a heated and increasingly racially charged debate on HB1 visa program, which companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft have used to bring in hundreds of thousands of foreign workers in recent years, overwhelmingly from India. Critics argue H-1B and other skilled immigration programs are used by the tech giants to replace native-born workers and drive down wages, while proponents, including Mr. Musk, argue they are essential to fill local skill shortages in critical sectors like artificial intelligence. So there's a quote from Musk. "The fixed pie fallacy is at the heart of much wrong-headed economic thinking," the Tesla chief executive wrote on X. "There's essentially infinite potential for job and company creation. Think of the things that didn't exist 20 to 30 years ago." His comment was in response to a post from entrepreneur John Lonsdale about Shriram Krishnan, who President-elect Trump recently tapped for a key AI advisory role in his upcoming administration. So I've talked about this previously, the split between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Both of them are very big personalities who are famous for not getting along with their teams. Musk has broken a lot of friendships with the people he's worked in on these, on the PayPal, for example, on these previous ventures. He ends up falling out with them over things like compensation, directionality of the company. And it's the same with Donald Trump. He does not have any friends from his former government. And they're both quite clear in sort of their stubbornness in the way they go about business. And I think the first key conflict that is coming in between Trump and Musk, at least on the surface, is sort of what he says here, the fixed pie fallacy thinking, where this is something that's also known as the zero-sum fallacy, or the zero-sum thinking. For those not familiar, zero-sum is basically when you think of the world as having a fixed amount of value, and that value is always just going to be distributed between the players or the participants of a game. And the opposite of that is sort of the what you'd call abundance thinking or synergistic thinking, where cooperation can create a larger pie. Essentially, like you can, taxation would be an example of this, where people would argue that if you lower taxation, the people on top will keep more of their money, but there will also be more value creation in the economy. So the larger share of the pie will be bigger. Whereas the people who are proponents of high tax schemes would usually favor a lot higher taxes, because they feel like the pie is fixed, or at least it's fixed to a degree where the added value will not compensate for the differences created. And how we see this with Donald Trump in particular is in foreign policy. He's talking about things like tariffs, for example, using tariffs to punish countries like China, where his main political issue that's been most consistent with Donald Trump, even before he came into the politics, was the idea that China is ripping us off. You've seen the videos. China, they're ripping us off. And he has, I think, certain complaints, especially with regards to trade deficits, that I find quite bizarre. I can't even find any economists or any kind of theory that have a similar idea in terms of trade deficits, meaning that he essentially believes that because the United States imports more goods from China than it exports to China, then China is ripping off the United States. I mean, there are other economic phenomena that could also be equated to that, like, say, patent issues, where China is copying US technology without paying them for it, and showing very little respect for patent law. And also China's fiscal policy, where they devalue their currency to give them an edge in terms of manufacturing. But I think out of those three, the most crucial thing is the patents. But he never talks about the patents. It's really just about the fact that we are subsidizing the United States because we're importing more from them than they're exporting to us. It's a very strange economic idea, and you can only think like this if you have the idea of a fixed pie, in a sense. Like there has to be a symmetry, or ideally, maybe for Trump, the United States should export more than it imports. I mean, you can make a geopolitical independence argument for that, but I don't think that's what he is doing. He thinks of this as in economic terms, and that there's an economic fixed amount of value, and if you're importing more than you're exporting, then you're losing, right? So, but I mean, it's easy to make fun of it, but this is very much at the heart of a lot of his ideas around tariffs and foreign policy, and it runs very contrary to the needs, I think, of Silicon Valley and a lot of the Silicon Valley backers he has, like Elon Musk, the Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia, David Sachs, and so on. So I'll continue reading. Last month, Mr. Krishan advocated for lifting the cap on green cards when replying to a post of Mr. Musk regarding the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE for short, a new body that Mr. Musk will lead alongside businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. Anything to remove country caps for green cards, unlock skilled immigration would be huge, Mr. Krishan wrote. So apparently with green cards, there's a country cap. Like in one country you can only give out a certain amount of green cards, meaning that they want more Indians into the United States, into tech. And this is difficult with the green card policy that's currently in place. Let's see. In another post, Mr. Krishan added, "Simple logic. We need the best, regardless of where they happen to be born. Another bizarre quirk of the country cap is where you are born, not even citizenship." David Sachs, who Mr. Trump tapped for White House AI and cryptocurrency czar, discussed with Mr. Krishan's view in the post this week. Siram still supports skill-based criteria for receiving a green card, not making the program unlimited, he wrote. In fact, he wants to make the program entirely merit-based. Mr. Musk replied, "Makes sense." The billionaire wrote in another post that the US needed to more than double the 160,000 semiconductor engineers said to be required by 2032 driven by the 250 billion in new investments. The number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the USA is far too low, he said. Think of it like a sports team. If you want the team to win the championships, you need to recruit the top talent, wherever they may be. That enables the whole team to win. One prominent right-wing user wrote, "There are over 330 million people in America. Surely there must be enough among them to build your ultimate team. Why would you deny real Americans the opportunity by bringing foreigners here?" Mr. Musk replied, "Your understanding of the situation is upside down and backwards. Of course, my companies and I would prefer to hire Americans, and we do, as that is much easier going through the incredibly painful and slow work of visa processing. However, there is a dire shortage of extremely talented and motivated engineers in America," he insisted. "This is not about handing out opportunities from some magical hat." So here's the tweet from Elon. "Maybe this is a helpful clarification. I'm referring to bringing in via legal immigration the top 0.1 of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning. This is like bringing in the jockey from Wembley's of, say, the world to help your whole team." I'm not going to show the rest of the tweet. "You don't get it," he continued. "This is blindingly obvious when you look at NBA teams, as the physical differences are so obvious to see. However, the mental differences between humans are far bigger than the physical differences." Mr. Musk comments have sparked a day-long backlash from anti-immigration hardliners as pro-Trump influencers lined up on either side of this debate. So, recently with this Trump-Musk war, we've seen the Congress spending bill where Trump backed the bill and Elon went against the bill, lobbying Congress to scrap it. And Elon won out in that conflict. And the response that I saw on social media was largely silence or support for Elon. And my conclusion from that was really that the large MAGA base actually seemed to prefer Elon Musk to Donald Trump. But now we're seeing different signals where it seems like actually it is they prefer Trump to Musk when it comes to the immigration issue, and the immigration bit is actually like genuinely really important. They're not going to be swayed or talked into a different position on that, regardless of what Elon Musk tells them. Whereas through most of the campaign, Elon Musk has campaigned for Trump. He has campaigned on an immigration restrictionist platform and enabled an environment on Twitter that has been, well, to say it politely, hostile to immigrants. Many of the big influencers that have been pushing Donald Trump and campaigning for Trump have also been running these anti-Indian meme campaigns, like with the street shitters, for example, where they use Elon Musk's Grok AI to create images of Indians that are very sort of disparaging, and they involve the sort of meme where they make fun of India's sanitary conditions and their lack of public toilets and people not using public toilets. So they created more or less this kind of mob that has a sort of an anti-Indian bias, you could say. Of course, willing to overlook the fact that Trump has staffed his campaign with people, and is going to staff his government with people like Vivek and Kash Patel, and there's a lot of Indian influence on the MAGA right currently. But now Elon has to stand in front of that crowd that he has sort of created and try to argue economics with them, in a sense, try to explain patiently how he thinks economics works, and they don't want to hear it because, I mean, he's more or less complicit in creating this type of an environment that is frying him on Twitter currently. So I'll continue reading here. "This tech labor shortage is total nonsense," wrote Andrew Torba, founder of far-right social media platform Gab. "They think you're stupid. If you're a white male engineer in this country and you're unemployed right now, you can't even get an interview anywhere because many hiring managers at top tech firms are Indian and will only hire their own." Daniel Horowitz, senior editor at The Blaze, pointed out that over the past year, native-born American workers had lost a net of 773,000 jobs, while foreign-born workers had gained more than 1 million jobs. Since before the pandemic, the foreign-born workforce has grown by more than 3.7 million, while the native-born workforce has shrunk by 873,000, he wrote. Indian contract companies like Infosys, HCL, Wipro, Cognizant, and Tata have exploited the H-1B and F-1 and operational practical training visa pipelines to flood Silicon Valley and American tech companies with cheap labor. This approach not only boxes out American workers, but also treats many Indian recruits as indentured servants. Over the past decade, 71% of jobs in Silicon Valley have gone to foreign workers, while 74% of American STEM graduates have failed to secure jobs in STEM fields. So here's a picture of Vivek Ramaswamy. See, William Uptown, editor of the National Pulse, argued that there was little data supporting the tech industry's claim of a worker shortage. Between 2022 and 2024, Amazon laid off nearly 30,000 highly skilled workers, he wrote. In the same period, the online retail giant expanded its workforce by nearly 100,000 foreign workers. Similar trends argue that for Google and Microsoft between 2022 and 2024, nearly 60,000 American workers were laid off among the three companies, while the companies increase their HB1 employees by over 340%. Many right-wing online influencers spoke up to defend Mr. Musk. Some of the same people who said we support legal immigration, just not illegal immigration, are suddenly anti-legal immigration for the top 0.1% of foreign talent. Makes no sense and is a losing position, wrote Colin Rugg from Trending Politics. Utsav Sanjuan, founder of the pro-Trump group Hindus for America First, said 400,000 H-1B visa holders aren't your enemy. They're vetted, regulated, and accounted for, and a reminder of what a lawful immigration should look like, he wrote. So, I mean, this is interesting for many reasons, especially considering that the standard argument from the American right in regards to immigration is that they are worried about welfare queens and so-called like people who will destroy the American system because they come across the border and they don't work and they go on welfare. They use the hospital systems, the public infrastructure. They overload it and they're sort of a drain on the system collectively. So you don't want that. You don't want the welfare leeches in a sense. But now the argument is really more along the lines that when they bring in these Indians to work as indentured servants, they're they're suppressing wages for Native American, let's call them Native Americans would be the wrong term, but at least let's say American citizens, and basically creating inhumane working expectations in terms of competition for the people who live there, who actually would prefer to have a better work-life balance. So the new right-wing position seems to be more similar to kind of a European position in a sense that they want a more ethnocentric immigration policy and they want to maintain, like a work-life balance, something similar to what they have in France, in a sense, and not double down on the sort of America number one. We're winning the competition. We're going to win the tech AI race. Rhetoric. So, Mr. Ramaswamy also weighed in with a lengthy Boxing Day post suggesting American culture had venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long and was to blame. The recent top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans. There's the problem with the term again, like native. Who exactly is native at this point? Isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, say a lazy, wrong explanation, he said. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough question and demand through answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ, or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Mr. Ramaswamy claimed a culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zack and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. So this is very interesting. I'm not super read up on these shows. I just sort of vaguely know. Let's say Steve Urkel. Isn't he the black nerd? Steve Urkel, fictional character. This should be the new American hero. Isn't he the? Did I do that? Did I do that? Let's see. Fact: I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity. And their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates, he added. So we'll read Vivek's post in its entirety because I think it's fascinating. And he adds in the kind of... He sort of outflanks the American right from this hard work angle, which is very interesting because, like I said, they've been running this sort of, we don't want the welfare queens flooding our country, but then he sort of outflanks them and saying that, okay, we're going to flood your country with people who work harder than you. and your culture sucks essentially because it's favoring mediocrity now that the right has sort of shifted focus into more kind of natalist and trad family oriented talking points. Then he's coming in with the sort of, no, you need to compete harder, and your culture that is more focused on relaxing and having fun, that's essentially just produces losers. So here's the post by Vivek. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born first-generation engineers over native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers. If we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. That's the isn't that the book that he wrote? Let's see, Vivek Ramaswamy. Truths. Yeah, it's the book, Truth. The Future of America First. Isn't this something? Let's say Vivek, God is real. There's a LinkedIn post. So of course it's LinkedIn. Yeah, this was my first encounter with Vivek Ramaswamy, right? He's sort of able to kind of push himself into the right with this stuff. Truth, number 1, God is real. 2, there are 2 genders. 3, human flourishing requires fossil fuels. 4, reverse racism is racism. 5, open border is no border. 6, parents determine the education of their children. 7, nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. 8, capitalism lifts people from poverty. 9, there are 3 branches of the US government, not 4. 10, the US Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. So he comes in with this kind of culture war stuff, but then he slightly, he sort of outflanks these people, saying that, well, no, actually you're not working hard enough. Like you're essentially losers, and you should import more Asian immigrants to be kind of the upper class in the United States. So let's see here. A culture that celebrates prom queens over math Olympiad champions or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World and Zack and Slater over Screech from Save the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact. I've read this part. Movies like Whiplash, fewer returns of friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, movie books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. So this is essentially like Asian tiger parenting, right? The stuff that they do in South Korea and Singapore, like this sort of obsessive work culture. Like, yeah, the kids can't have any friends. You should just constantly be doing, when you're done with school, you're going to do tutoring, and then you're going to learn to play the piano for 10 hours, and you're essentially just driving them to be these kind of performance robots. It's interesting. He says, like, movies like Whiplash, because it's. I think a lot of people saw the movie Whiplash as a kind of like horror story as to the consequences of this behavior. But I assume he sort of thinks that we should have more of that, unironically. Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kind of parents. More normal American kids view such those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you grew up, you knew in the 90s, or even know now, who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. Oh, China are kicking our ass! China, they're kicking our ass! Oh my god, China! Yeah, I'll actually do another video on just explaining like the China's kicking our asses narrative. It has a lot of interesting implications, but it's typically brought out by politicians to justify this types of policy. So this could be our Sputnik moment. We've awakened from a slumber before we do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in American, but not only. But only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. That's the work we have cut out for us, rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. I'm confident we can do it. And then he has 2 American flags there. So, well, it's interesting, like the framing of it, as he sort of conflates the American, hard work culture with the Asian kind of tiger parenting, obsessive kind of Japanese work culture, in a sense. Like, and they're not exactly the equivalent there, but he's sort of doing this bait and switch game that we can make America great again by going back to Asian work culture, in a sense. And I mean, my thoughts regarding this is that what could be done in America, and what might happen, which would venerate guys like Cenk Uygur, who's been talking about the cross section between like MAGA populist and the sort of left wing progressive populist, is that you could start pushing for better working conditions or higher minimum wage, less total amount of work hours that you could do in a week, like essentially less free market capitalism. And in that way, United States could become more like a European country that would, raise the costs of bringing in Indian immigrants. Because if you can't work them to the bone this way, if they have to work a standard 40, 50-hour work week, then it's not going to be worth it. Like, their productivity per hour will not rival European Americans' productivity. So I'm not sure they're going to go in that direction. Honestly, most of them seem just to attack this from a sort of racial angle. But it's a very interesting conflict. I look forward to following up on this and seeing how we come out of this. If Elon is actually more susceptible to the pressure from his own mob, essentially, because he's created the Twitter mob that he has been able to mobilize to attack his enemies. But now they're turning around and attacking him, and he has to stand accountable as a part of the United States government to his own mob. The same with David Sachs and Ramaswamy and some of these types. And I mean, it's easy to think that he is like a 5D chess player, mastermind. In some sense, he is. But I also think that he is a Twitter addict who always comes back to Twitter, and he wants feedback. He wants thumbs up and retweets, and he wants to ratio people. So there is a likelihood that he would be influenced by this if the pressure is persistent, which would actually be huge if this is possible, that internet racists are able to stop Indian immigration because of Twitter pressure. Like, that's the political dynamic we have going. But I think that remains to be seen. So I'll just end the video there, and if you watched all the way through, thank you for your time, and goodbye.